Welcome to the Confident, Calm, and Clutch Car Ride Conversations. I'm your host, Valerie Alston, here to help parents and young athletes spark meaningful dialogue about mental toughness, resilience, and confidence. Whether you're headed to practice or a game or just running errands, this podcast is your go-to for building stronger relationships and lifelong skills, one car ride at a time. So let's dive in. During the month of February, we'll be discussing a bunch of things related to love, which February is the month of love, right? Valentine's Day. So in a sport context, what that means really is focusing on your relationships, your teamwork, and being a good teammate. Okay. So each episode for the next month will build on the previous one to create a cohesive month of meaningful conversation centered around relationships in sport. Today, what we're going to talk about is what does it mean to be a good teammate? Okay. This is important whether you're an individual athlete or a team athlete, regardless, as a kid specifically, as a young person, you always have to be a good teammate because you're not doing this alone. Shoot, even if you move up through the ranks as an individual athlete, let's say you're a star tennis player or a golfer, right? Yeah, those are individual sports. You play by yourself, but you still have a team of a coach and a support network that's going to help you. And so being a good teammate is essential to your growth and development, and quite frankly, your success. So let's talk a little bit about what it means to be a good teammate. Now, for me personally, it means someone who has my back, who supports me when I'm having a rough go, who celebrates just as hard for my successes as theirs, and someone who challenges me to be better, and ultimately someone that I actually want to be around. That's my personal definition. Now, I would say there's some research definitions of what it means to be a good teammate, but there's not one definitive answer. I work with the military, and I think over the years, I've experienced this through sport too, but you don't necessarily have to be best friends with everybody that you play with, that you work together towards. But time and time again, I hear my soldiers talk about in the fight and in combat. Once I was there and once the stuff hit the fan, it wasn't about the mission. That was a piece of it. But what really mattered was my buddy to my left and to my right. I knew that the people around me had my back, that no matter what happened or what we were facing, they were in it with me and they were going to be there with me. Now, I'm not a fan of equating sports to war because those things are not the same. But as an athlete, your games, your practices, the way you compete throughout a season is the quote unquote your battle, right? And when you look to your left and to your right, on your team, on your sidelines, in the dugout, do you believe that those people that you're standing next to are there to support you and want success for you and are going to be there when you mess up, make an error, they're going to support you, or they're going to tear you down, right? Are you going to be that person that tears somebody down or is critical, okay? And if that's true, it's going to be tough to be successful, to trust in the people that you need, that you have around you, especially because if you're in a team sport, it doesn't matter how amazing you are. If you don't have the people around you building you up and helping you and supporting you, you're never going to win a game. Okay. And I know for me throughout the years, when I think back to the absolute best teams I was a part of, it was because of the relationships that we built. One team in particular, like we were so close that from a perspective of like on-field stuff that we've dealt with, I would have fought. And I'm not a violent person, but I would have like thrown blows for these girls because we almost did get into a situation. That's okay. Different time, different conversation. But like the minute it started getting chippy, I remember looking around me being like, every girl had the same look in her eyes with that girl that was kind of getting feisty, the team that we were playing, that like, oh, please, like try something because you're going to have 14 girls like coming at you. So it was like that absolute trust that these girls have my back. We've been through so much together. If you want some more popular, the Notre Dame women's basketball team, if you read all the headlines about them, it's all about their chemistry. It's all about how they work together, that they've dealt with some injuries, some things are going on, but every girl on that team is like, hey, we got you. Next person up, right? You're hurt, we'll pick up the slack. You can watch it right now in the NFL playoffs. I think some of the good examples, unfortunately, the Lions just lost, but when you look at the Lions through their whole season, I think like 18 people on injured reserve, and they were still winning games because they're such a cohesive team. They're there for each other. They care about each other. That fed into whoever the next guy was to step into that position. He was ready, right? So exploring teamwork, it really comes down to some key insights. Things as a person who's a member of a team, you have to be able to be kind, be respectful, be encouraging, have accountability, and most importantly, care about your teammates. Again, even when you're in an individual sport, think of your team as your coaches, your parents, and anyone else that helps you support your journey. Because if you're not being a good teammate, when somebody doesn't believe that you have their best interest at heart, they don't try as hard for you or with you. They're going to hold back because they are scared of either the impact that you're going to pounce on them and berate them or something along those lines. I can remember very specifically a time in my life where I was on a team, and previously we had one of the girl move up to a different league, so we brought in another person to fill that spot. And this girl created such chaos because she was such a horrible teammate. She was a backstabber. She created drama. She created fighting because she would tell made up stories about other people and talk about them behind their back. And that team went from being a cohesive, close-knit, amazing team to being like, I was just glad that the summer was over because that girl was so toxic and it created all these problems on the team that it was like, we didn't accomplish anything that we were supposed to. We went to the national tournament, but we ended up fizzling out because we just didn't have the trust and the mutual respect anymore. All this infighting had happened, and you can't play well when you don't trust the people around you, okay? So being a good teammate, lifting others up while striving to be your best is really important. And we're going to talk next week more about how do you compete hard and be competitive but still be a good teammate, because that's a piece of it. But the key thing here is that teamwork requires communication, trust, and mutual respect. And so thinking about how do you do that as a teammate? How do you care about their successes just as much as you care about yours? And how do you support them just as much as you want their support for yourself? Okay. So we're going to dive into some conversation. Again, quick reminder of the rules. There are no wrong answers. Take turns talking and listening. Try to minimize distractions. And remember that you can pause after each individual question or just listen to them all and then discuss after. So let's get into our discussion questions. First and foremost, what do you think it means to be a great teammate? As the parents in the car, as the kids in the car, what does that mean to you? What have you experienced? What have you lived before? And for you, what does it mean to be a great teammate? Number 2, who do you think is a great teammate that you've experienced before, and what makes them stand out? Why, when I said pick somebody who's a great teammate, why did they pop into your head? Right? Why did they stand out for you? And a follow-up to that is, are you like them, right? Do you exhibit those qualities and those characteristics? Question 3, when's one time in your life where you felt completely supported by either a teammate, a coworker, or a friend? And what did that mean to you? And how did you feel supported? Why, when you think back to that time, why did you feel completely supported? Number 4, thinking about this as the parent-kid relationship or the coach-athlete relationship, how can you work together on being better teammates to each other? In the specific roles that you have as parent-kid or coach-athlete, how can you work on being better teammates for each other? What's one, by the end of that conversation, I want you to have at least one action item each that you're going to start doing to be a better teammate for each other. All right. So get to talking, have a good conversation. And I'm excited for y'all to just dive into this topic. So thanks again for joining me on the Confident Common Clutch Car Ride Conversations. If you found this episode helpful, again, please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a moment. And of course, share it with other parents and coaches who could use a little extra inspiration on the go. You can join my newsletter at www.confidentcalmclutch.com/newsletter for exclusive tips, tools, and updates, or buy my book, Confident Calm and Clutch, How to Build Confidence and Mental Toughness for Young Athletes Using Sports Psychology. And the link for both will be in my show notes. All right, y'all, remember to keep that conversation rolling. Let's make those car rides count. We'll see you next time.